Hi, Western Christian. My name is Chris Jackson. I'm pastor of Grace Church in Laverne, and some of you might know me. I've spoken to you several times over the years, although it's been a couple of years. I had two daughters that went through freshman through senior year at Western. My youngest daughter, Madeline, graduated in 2020, so right when all of the weirdness with COVID happened. She lost her senior trip, Uganda trip, prom, graduation, all of those fun things. And so I know Western pretty well, and I love your school. I know I don't know you personally probably, but I love you, and I'm excited to talk to you. I'm actually not really going to be talking to you or preaching to you. I'm actually going to be tag team preaching with Madeline, but more than anything, I'm just going to introduce this time together, and then I know you'll be in your classes talking and processing, since we're doing distanced chapel services right now with this latest flare-up of COVID stuff. But I'm excited for you to hear from Maddie, and we want to talk to you about the fact that sometimes the things that we're living through, like high school, like peer groups and just different issues in our lives, they can feel like the most important, overwhelming thing in our life. And it is in the moment, but sometimes it's helpful to remember that life is so much bigger than what we're going through in the moment. And I remember when my oldest daughter, who is a couple years older than Maddie, when she was here at Western, she went through kind of just a painful season, and most students do, and that's not uncommon, but she was going through a painful time and just struggling and feeling overwhelmed with school and life. And she and I went and sat in the parking lot of your school. So we were out by the football field in the corner, and I angled the car to where we could see all of Western kind of in a V-shaped path. And I remember I put my hands out around the school, and you know how perspective is everything. If you're looking up at the moon at night, you can cover the moon with your thumb just based on the perspective of where you're looking. But I remember Western Christian seemed like it was about this big, and I said to her, babe, I know this feels so overwhelming right now, but this time of your life is only this big compared to everything else that you'll be facing. And so we use that as kind of a marked moment that what you're facing feels like everything, and you have to manage it well, because it is important and it is your life, but there's so much more in front of us. And so I wanted just to share that memory I had with my oldest daughter, and now my youngest daughter, Maddie, is going to pick this up and share some thoughts and scriptures that hopefully will help all of us and help you navigate the particular time of life that you're in.
Hi guys, I'm so excited to be here today and to be able to speak to some of my old classmates and some new freshmen. It's just such an honor and such a privilege. So thank you, Chris Wilson, for having me speak. And I originally wanted to do like this great big speech. I wanted to say something that no one's ever said before, anyone heard before. And then I thought, okay, what would I so have wanted to hear in high school? What was the thing I needed to hear most when I was in your seats? And that is that these 4 years of your life, high school, does not last forever. It does not. This is not your life. These 4 years do not define who you are or what your life is. And yet, they are incredibly impactful years. These 4 years will set you up for the rest of your life. And so the main thing I want to talk about today is, although there is hope and although the pain, the broken relationships will come to an end in a few years, how can we better set ourselves up now for our future? How can we enjoy this experience to our fullest? And so the first question I want to ask you guys is, are you paying attention to the things that you pay attention to? Let me repeat that. Are you paying attention to the things that you pay attention to? What voices are you listening to? Who's speaking into your life? What do you give your affection to? These are big questions and huge things that we have to answer sometime in our life. You know, it's funny, my dad, he tends to think he's a better driver than he really is. Sorry, Dad. But when he's driving, he's sitting in the car, and when he turns his head to look over his shoulder to get into the next lane, the car tends to move with him, to move with his eyes. And it's the same thing. Our course follows our gaze. You become your gaze, and your attention matters. In fact, King David, he was about 15 years old, which is, I think, around the age of some freshmen and sophomores in high school, when he first fought in Saul's battle and when he first defeated Goliath. And David, ever since he was brought into a kingdom and became a king, he had voices coming at him and speaking at him in all directions. So David had to pay attention to what he was paying attention to. He had to choose and be choosy with who he listened to and what voices mattered in his life. Whose voice is the loudest in your life? I know for me, when I was in high school, I listened to the wrong things. I listened to the things that weren't true of who I was. And that ultimately really hurt me. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are doing the same. And so there's hope. And so pay attention to who you're listening to. In fact, David's eldest brother Eliab even questioned him and put so much pressure on him at a young age. It says in 1 Samuel 17:28, "Now Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spoke to the men, and Eliab's anger was kindled against David, and he said, 'Why have you come down, and with whom have you left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know your presumption and the evil of your heart, for you have come down to see the battle.' And David said, 'What have I done now? Was it not but a word?' And he turned away from him toward another and spoke in the same way, and the people answered him again as before." So David faced so much pressure. His own brother didn't trust him. His own brother stood against him and was trying to hurt him. And we have friendships, we have relationships that actually are doing the same thing, whether we realize it or not. And so David had to be extremely careful with what he gazed at and what he looked at and what he paid attention to. In fact, as we all know, the story of David and Bathsheba, when David chose to put his attention on her and his gaze, when he got off track, that is what ultimately led him to a lot of mistakes and a lot of failures. And yet, we also know that's not the end of the story with David. He's not forever only known as the guy that slept with Bathsheba and got off track. He's known as a king, a warrior, a young boy that defeated the great Goliath. So he's known for incredible things, and it is by the grace of God that he is. So, I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard your grandparents or someone older say, "Back in the day, back in the good old days, I was homecoming queen," or "I won the state championship." Why is it, I was thinking to myself, why is it that these people always go back to these years, always go back to their high school years? And that's kind of the mark of their life. They're just high school years. It's not a huge deal. But really, these years are formative and impactful years. The people you surround yourselves with. We've all heard the quote, "Show me your friends and I'll show you your future." It's true. The people you invest time in, the people that invest time into you have a great impact on your life. And the things you listen to, the things you do, the people you date, you guys, the people you date in high school affect you in college. They affect you and they bring it into the rest of your life. I know for one, I dated in high school, and it wasn't a horrible experience and I learned a lot, but if I could advise you guys in any way, I would say do not date, but wait. Please wait. The thing about relationships is when you're in them, here's your scope of life. You have friends, you have family, you have your interests, your freedom. But when you're dating in high school and you don't know who you are and you don't know who you want to be with, the scope narrows. It narrows on like a microscope or some goggles onto that one person, and you lose sight of everything else in your life. And that's what happened to me. And so if you're dating, I'm not trying to shame you. Dating is a beautiful thing. It's a gift. But be wise with it. Be careful, and be careful whose heart you're holding. So a few key things that a college girl a few years older than you would advise is grow in your relationships with your friends. Love the Lord. Grow to love Him and know Him. This has changed my life forever. And just try your absolute best to make the most of these years, while also remembering that these years are not your life, and there's hope. It's going to come to an end if you're struggling, I promise. Also, the Western staff is just incredible and have saved my life in many ways, and so take advantage of them and their wisdom. But ultimately, I just want to leave you with a question that I keep asking, which is, are you paying attention to the things you pay attention to? And if so, are those things bringing you closer to the Lord, or are they making you stray farther and farther away from Him? So ask yourself that. I love you all so much. I'm sorry for the noise in the background if you can hear it. But I love you guys, and I'm for you, I'm praying for you, and I love Western so much. So let me pray. Father, thank you so much that you've given me the opportunity to share with these kids, with these students. God, thank you that you love us so much, Lord, that you want us to keep our eyes on you, God, because you are the only thing, the abundant, loving, amazing thing in this world, the only thing that doesn't break us or fail us. So thank you, God. We love you. I pray over Western Christian and that they would keep their eyes on you, God, that you would keep them from depression, from anger, from suicidal thoughts. Anyone right now, I pray specifically for anyone right now that is struggling with suicidal thoughts or wanting to end their life. Father, please give them strength and help them to have hope and peace in life. We love you. We praise you. Amen. Amen.